All right, so we are a student. We are student one is our username. I've logged in as a different user, so just be aware of that. And this is I haven't looked through this user yet. So let's have a look at the course module that we made through the eyes of student one. So here it is, Fruit 101 simulation lessons. For group 4, that was the group we talked about, and description goes here. That's what I wrote for a silly description. So we go in. Okay, so here we see the course. It does look familiar. It has the course materials with just that one picture. So that's at the top there, and that'll always be available. That's not time dependent. The course material is always there. But the sessions are. So the sessions will become available, as you can see, when the time comes. So at the moment, we've got 3 sessions available. Now, when we were in as the original user, so the first user that we had in this series of videos, created the whole course and put in all the content, including the pictures of fruit and different things like that. When we went in as that user, we were classified as a marker, and we had a look at that in the previous video. But in that video, there were only 2 classes that had been revealed so far, but now we have this session 3. So the reason for the names is, if you look at the previous videos, I made 5 sessions in the full length of the course. And I can rename the session names. By default, they're called Session 1, Session 2, Session 3, Session 4, Session 5. But I can rename them to anything. And the first 2 are called Class 1 and Class 2. But I forgot to rename Session 3, so that's why it's called Session 3. So that's a good illustration of how it works. Now, if I go through, let's have a look through the content. So we'll start with the introduction. And here I can see the document that we developed when we were designing this course module. And here it is. I can't edit it. It's a read-only document, but it's formatted for me to view. Okay, so then we can either click next at the next or back buttons at the top, or we can navigate directly to wherever we want to go down the left. But what I'll do is I'll navigate them through one by one. So now we've got next or back. And this is a task. So you can see here it says task 1. And if you remember in the earlier videos, we made up this task. And we put in some instructions. I said task 1 instructions. Instruction goes here, and there was just a picture of an apple. And then after that, see, this is what the student sees. They see a word processor that they can complete the task in. And not only that, but they also have the template of the task that they are required to complete. And if you remember in the earlier videos, I made this template up as I was designing the course. So everyone gets this template, and it's sort of just a guide as to how to lay out the document. Of course, it could just be empty, that you don't have to have a template, but you can do that. And then the student takes the document from here and completes it. Now, if you look down, there's a few requirements at the bottom in terms of what the student has to do. So if the student doesn't fulfill these requirements, then they're given a tip as to do a bit more. So, for example, here it says more words required, and 1 or more required keywords are missing, and I put my own name there as just a keyword. So if I save, it'll just keep telling me, well, you need to write a bit more and that kind of thing. So that's good, and it'll always remain red until it's completed, and these tips have gone. So what I'll do is I'll leave that one, because what I want to demonstrate is what happens if a student doesn't do an assignment. So I've had a look at that assignment, and I've gone into this course, so I'm present, but I'm not going to complete this assignment. Let's go to the next item. Now, this one is another thing for me to do. It's multiple choice, and this is due by session 5. So all of these items, if I go back, they all have they'll say clearly when they're due by session 4, and this one, and I'll go forward again, this one's due by session 5. So what I'll do is I'll answer this one, and I happen to know the correct answer is 1. So I'll put that, and now it's gone black from red to black. So it's not reminding me with a red light to do it. And also the tips are gone. So that one's finished. And let's just progress forward. And then we see the slides that we had. And this picture of a storm. This picture is actually used in the simulation design. So there's a whole other series of videos about how to design your own simulation from scratch. And we used this picture in there for one of the events. So that's class 1. And I'm just going to leave, just as an illustration, I'm going to leave that task not done. And it would go through class 2, and this is all familiar. So I created this request for them to upload a document, and all the instructions are here. This is what I wrote, and any requirements in terms of the file here, and they can upload a file. So they can also download it again after they've uploaded it. And then there's the video here, which they can watch. If there's multiple videos in a series, they'll just play one after another. It's a bit like YouTube, I guess, or any of those streaming sites. So, and then here's the other examples of downloading of a PDF document, so they can just click that and see the document. Now, so we've gone through. Now, I'll just say that this must be 15 minutes, because if you remember in the previous video, I scheduled this course module for, it was 5 sessions, and I said 5 minutes per session, and I left it at that. So that means that 15 minutes has passed, but it might be another session available now, because they're going so rapidly, only 5 minutes. Normally you might use something like a week normally for a class. So this is, if I wanted to refresh this, I just click the refresh button if there's another, to see if the next class is available. It's supposed to say I'm here and the browser's been open from before, and I'm wondering where the session is. So if you just click refresh, then it just takes you to here, and then you go back in, so that we know that you get everything updated. So, and here we go. So now I'm back in, and all of the sessions are available. So now if you remember task 1, we didn't do. We left that. But it has gone from red to black. That's because it's past due now. So it was due by session 4, and as you can see, we're past session 4. So that's what happens when something is past due. It's no longer red, or if it's completed, then it's no longer red. So for a student, an item is red if it's not completed and not due yet. Then it's red, so it's something that they need to work on. If either of those happen, so if it's past due or it's been completed, then it's not red anymore, and we don't need to draw their attention to it. It's over with. So I guess that covers everything for a student, how they view this screen. So what we'll do now is we'll go over to another user. I'll just go back to my starting screen for this student. So I'm just going to point out that I'm going to change users now, because it might get confusing if you're not aware. So here we are logged in with student 1, and I am going to change browsers, and I'm going to be logged in as marker 1, and we'll see what the marker 1 sees. So changing now. Okay, so now I'm logged in as marker1.video.demo. So let's go into this course as marker 1. Now, I just mentioned before, when I went, you remember I went in as another marker. The original person who designed the course was also a marker. I went in with them very early, and I couldn't do anything. Everything was locked because the assignments weren't due. So there's no way that the marker can start marking an assignment before it's due. That's just unfair to the students, because they may not have done it. It's not due yet. They don't have to have done it. So now that time has passed, in fact, all the sessions are passed, and the course has come to an end. Let's see what the marker now sees. This marker 1. So we're going in for the first time as marker 1. We see the course material at the top, and then we go through the course. We see the content as well, which could be useful for the marker to see, just to refer to or check on as they mark. Now we come to task 1, and for the marker, this task is now red because it's past due. So for a marker, a marker is different to a student. As I said before, for a student, an item is red if it's incomplete and not due yet. But for a marker, an item is red if it's already due and it's not marked yet. So now we're getting this as red, and we need to have a look at it. The red is drawing our attention to it. So let's have a look at this one. And we have got a drop-down list here with student 1 in it. So remember, student 1 was in there before. And we can mark it. So let's have a look at that drop-down list. And there's only student 1 in that list. So what you might be wondering is, what about student 2? Because remember, I made 2 student users. So what this says is that student 1, this is all the students that are present for this course. So only student 1 was present for this course. And as you know, during this video, I haven't gone in as student 2 yet. So let's just leave that as it is. Or let's go out again as marker 1. And then I'll change users. I'm going to log out. I'm going to change browsers, which means I'm logging in as a different user. So I'll just change now. So now I am student 1. So let's go in as student 1. And the fruit simulation. And then we go in. Now student 1 is very late, so all of the everything's due. There's nothing in red. So there's nothing they can do now. In terms of interacting, it's too late. But they can see everything. They can see all the content. So that would be very important to do, even if they don't do the assignments. At least if they see the content, it's important, because all this content is going to be integrated with a simulation, and there's going to be useful information in the content here in this course module that's going to relate back to the simulation. It could be regulations or some strategy or anything that's related to the simulation. And having a look at this content will help them in the simulation. So it's all going to come out in the end, even if they miss some of the tasks. It's important that they come here and see everything. So they've gone through and looked at all the different stuff. So let's go back now to the marker and see if anything's changed. So I'm going back in as the marker. So now I am marker 1. And let's go in as marker 1 again. And it's similar to before. And this one, again, this task 1 is red. So let's go in as a marker. We'll see something that's red and we need to do it. And then we see here, we were here a minute ago. So let's see what it says now. Student 1 and student 2. Okay. So they're both present now in the course. So that's what the list is. The list is all the students in the course, but the ones that aren't present aren't shown in this list. So this is the students that are present. Now we can mark them one by one. So what I'll do is I'll mark them. So student 1, I'll go down. Now they didn't do anything. If you remember, we didn't do neither student did the task 1. And what I'll do is will put, it's out of 100, so let's just give them, say, 5 marks for attendance. And then we'll put in a comment, something like not completed, something like that. And I'll just save that. So at the bottom I've got a tip in red telling me to do something, and I save, and then the tip's gone. And now that's all good. So what I want to point out here is that I want to say something about the marking guide. So if you remember when I designed this sim, I wrote a little marking guide. All I said was mark like this, just as an example. But I think it's important that you could write something quite detailed in here, particularly if there is more than one marker. And that's very easy to do in this system. You can easily have multiple markers. And if you have a course where there's a lot of students, say for example 1,000 students, then you may need to have more than one marker just because of the sheer number of students and the number of work to be done in marking. You may have multiple markers. So you may have 20 markers marking over the 1,000 students, and they marking 50 students each. I don't know. But if you have a lot of students, you may well want to have more than one marker, and that can be done using using the group system that we have. We've talked a lot about how the groups work, and in another video we go through scheduling a simulation, which is the same as scheduling a course like this. And we also did a scheduling earlier video in this series. So when you do scheduling, you can use the groups that you're breaking, that you schedule for a large group, but then you can use subgroups that we call worlds in the simulation. But you can also use those worlds to allocate markers to different groups of students by putting the marker in the group of the world. So I hope that makes sense. But basically what I'm saying is that using the functionality in the scheduling, which is in another video, you can allocate markers to subgroups of students within the larger group that the course is for. And they will see, when the markers come in, they'll see just the students that are allocated to them for them to mark in this list. And when they complete them, all of that, they will be completed. They will show up as their thing is complete. So now I just swapped from student 1 to student 2, and task 1 showed up as red. So that means I haven't marked it. But if I choose student 1, then it's completed. So that's a way of me telling me, okay, have I done any more? All right, this one's red. I still have to mark student 2. So now student 2 didn't do anything either, so I'm going to give them the 5 to be consistent. And I'll make the same comment, not completed, and save that. Now the tip has gone, and now it's gone from red to black, and for all the students. Okay, so that one's complete, and then we move forward through. Now the feedback question is not showing up as red, because as you may remember, the feedback question was a multiple choice question.